Ma'am, you had a question. Yes, please.
Hello.
You mentioned poaching. So a little background about myself. My ancestors came from Pakistan
Okay.
with nothing. I'm new to Mysore here. I've built a home here very recently, just 3 months ago.
Louder if possible,
Yeah,
please.
I've built a home in Mysore just 3 months ago. I'm new to Mysore. I've been coming here for many years, so I'm very familiar with the place. There are two types of poaching that are happening on me. One, when I built the home, you know what you said about what is the Muslim community doing right. You know, I went to buy tiles. Along with the tiles came the plumber of the same community. Along with that came the electrician of the same community. Along with that came the painter of the same community, the cleaner, everybody, the carpenter, exact same. One after the other. And I was like, what is this? It took me a while to understand what is happening. So all the economics got centered with one community.
Correct.
Right? Which is something.
And those economics which you can't lead your life without.
No, you can't lead your life without.
Correct.
And these are the people who came who had no problem cleaning the bathrooms, who had no problem cleaning the place, who had no problem with any kind of work, and it went on, right? At a second level, because I'm a single woman, I'm a prime target for the poaching and the conversions, right? Because it is thought that I don't have a family support here, right? So when I go out and have my dinners or lunches at the cafe, I'm part of the yoga community here, so it happens very early in the morning, you know, my timings are a little different from others. So there is we don't realize this, but there is in Mysore a field force in action, like a FMCG sales force conversion.
Correct.
Right? Which invites me for teas, which invites me to the Church of Mysore. And when you go to the Church of Mysore, you realize that the caste system is there.
Correct.
What have these people run away from? The Church of Mysore is the Indian caste system alive. Right? So, I mean, from your perspective, when you did this research, tell us what are they doing? These are just small experiences, but on the ground experiences. What are they doing right, what we are not?
So, my reading of the subject and my interactions tell me two things are at play. One, there is a decentralized zeal at the individual level, which gets centralized support when they need it. Which means the individual is a practicing member of his community, and should he choose to do something in the name of the community for the community, he will always find backers to support that initiative at every level, from the bricklayer to the lawyer. So there is a church in Delhi which conducts annual sessions for young lawyers to identify the best of talent. And their grooming for their career path is assured by the institution, as long as they take up causes for the community. That is not limited to that particular community alone. Scholarships and awards and whatnot are. Now, it's not as if the caste identity is absent there, as you rightly said. I've revealed in the second book that in the 1882 census, there were 80 castes in Muslim community. That continues to be the situation even today. Brahmins might marry non-Brahmins. Ashrafs won't marry non-Ashrafs. That's the reality. They take it very seriously because the Arab blood and purity needs to be preserved. They'll not intermingle or mix it with anybody else. That's why I say that every time we say caste, 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 get your facts and history right. As long as a human society exists, diversity of thought, whether it's within the Christian denomination or the Muslim denomination or the Hindu sampradaya, will continue to exist. What they have successfully done is to identify who is the outsider and who is the insider to the larger identity. And that's where you wallow and beat around the bush. You're not asking for anything that's unconstitutional. You are saying, my institutions for my people, that's it. It was so difficult to convince people from the Hindu community that why should non-Muslim members benefit from the tenders being given for temple festivals? Why can't I even ask for exclusivity in those institutions which belong to my community? It's not for the municipal corporation. This is for temples. You don't know where to be broad-minded, you don't know where to be clear. You constantly wallow in this Udarvadi nonsense. Why, my sir? Are you telling me that the situation is any different in South Bangalore? No, it's not. Plus, there is the other critical component that there is a growing elitism in the Hindu community where certain jobs have been given up. And it's not even as if they're succeeding at better jobs. You've given up on such a major area. Could someone please give me the copy of my second book? And there's a reason why I included this. This was after a lot of research, talking to a lot of scholars. I put out this shloka. I'm very clear about what shloka the first book began with, the second book and ended with, and so is the case with the second book. Read the shloka which is on the opening page just before the contents page, and this is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Wait for me to finish it, and it will tie into the answer that I gave before. In the beginning, before creation, this whole cosmos was all indeed Brahman, the one and only. Being the only one, he could not scaffold the cosmos, which is he could not hold it together. He created further an excellent form, Kshatriyahood. Those Kshatriyas among the gods. So there is Varna system among Devas. Indra, Varuna, Soma, Rudra, Parjanya, Yama, Mrityu and Ishana. These are the Kshatriyas. Therefore, there is none higher than Kshatriyahood. Hence, the Brahmana upholds the Kshatriya from a lower position in the Rajasuya sacrifice. He imparts that glory to the Kshatriya. The Brahmana is the source of the Kshatriya. Therefore, although the king attains supremacy in the sacrifice, at the end of it, he resorts to the Brahmana, his source. He who destroys the Brahmana strikes at his own source. This is not Manusmriti. This is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. I could have quoted the Manusmriti, but people think that Manusmriti is an aberration from the Vedas. It is not. So deal with it. He becomes more wicked as one is by destroying the enlightened. Now from there, so the creation of the Kshatriya and the Brahmana is not sufficient. So then what happens? Yet Brahman could not scaffold the cosmos after having created the first two Varnas. He further created Vaishyas, which are called Ganasa, because they are in groups. The species of gods were designated in groups. Who are the Vaishyas? The 8 Vasus, the 11 Rudras, 12 Adityas, 13 Vishvedevas, and 49 Maruts. And yet Brahman could not scaffold. Now wait for the punchline here. He further created the Shudra Varna, which is called Pushan. What is the meaning of Pushan? This earth is Pushan, for it nourishes all that exists. That is the value of the Shudra community, because it is the foundation of every society. It is not a cuss word, it's not a swear word, it's not a bad word, it is not a casteist insult. This was always a very proud word. Yet Brahman could not scaffold the cosmos, as he was doubtful about controlling the ferocious Kshatra. He further created Dharma. This Dharma is the controller of Kshatra, hence there is nothing greater than Dharma. So that there is an honor code everywhere. Otherwise, the tyrant wielding the sword has no rules to fetter him with. Plumbers, mechanics, never hurl that jibe called puncture wala at anybody again. Don't do it. Please never do it. It reflects baseless elitism and stupidity on your part. Never do this again. Electrician, plumber, driver, mechanic, your house help. These are the people who let you go and sit in an air-conditioned office. Let them all go on a strike for one day. That's the end of your life cycle. Your productivity is gone for a toss. Therefore, you have to reframe the question. You have miserably failed at killing caste. Go for the lower hanging fruit, kill casteism. There is a difference, which is try and address this by creating a larger identity that you can relate to. That identity is always the bottom line for survival. Hindu and Hindutva. Hindutva is the means, Hindu consciousness is the goal. Try this, and that's exactly why every person who's been speaking of Hindutva has not done this just because it's meant to be a response to other predatory ideologies, but it's also meant for you to come together as a community, rising above your local identities, whether it's linguistic, regional, or caste-based identity, or the subsect identity. That's where you get it right. Because when you try and create a mythical Hindu unity after having destroyed every local identity, there is really nothing left here in terms of something to latch onto in terms of way of life, in terms of institutions, in terms of traditions, in terms of gurus, in terms of whatever is it that you want, the safety net and the guild that you have built over millennia. Enmeshing both forms, the micro and the macro, and melding them together is where the trick is. And the melting pot in the institution which must help you perform this is the temple. The temple has three roles. Creation of a consecrated energy space, which is meant to create a certain degree of divine presence in that place. Go to Delhi, why does it feel negative? Because all temples have been destroyed. Delhi air feels negative because it lacks in consecrated energy spaces. You go above the Vindhyas and you come below the Vindhyas. Tell me that you don't sense an energy difference. Of course you do. Someone was joking about it the other day. I don't know how much of truth there is to it, because I am not an expert in Itihasa. They said, after the fight between Nagas and Arjuna should have done some kind of tarpana for the Nagas, because they were the ones who lived in Indraprastha, and therefore which was called as Khandavaprastha, and that's why that place is yet to come out of the curse of the Naga. Dharmaraja builds a kingdom, but he can't even enjoy it, and he enjoys it after having lost all his relatives for a period of 36 years. So I don't know, I'm not getting into this beyond that. All I'm trying to say is that the solutions are in the past, and therefore history is a very important lesson. Sir's question as to how we existed as a community prior to the 18th century is the answer. Okay, when people say, why were we not able to repel all these invaders? Ask the very same question of Greek history. Until Alexander, he is known for world conquest, but most people don't realize his primary contribution. Until Alexander, in the war between the Persian Empire and the Greek states, since Greece was fighting as different feudatories and states, they were never in a position to repel the Persian Empire. So that man brings them together and then fights, and then makes them a world conquering force. Apply the very same example between Alexander and Chandragupta Maurya. Then you create an empire which has the ability to beat everybody else. So the answer is, our individual identities are important, but never give them pradhanya and primacy over the overall identity. Find a way to balance that ego. If the temple and its let's say, so what did I say? The first is the consecrated space, and the second is where it provides a nerve point for people to come and solve their problems without the interference of the state. Don't depend on the state to solve all your problems, because then the community becomes entirely dependent on the state and loses its sense of self-reliance. The other two communities can run their own institutions without state support. They can run their own schools without state support, their own malls without state support, their own health institutions without state support. 3, you create safety networks. The temple has performed the role of even banks, so to speak, going by what Mr. Sanyal has said in the past. Which means when someone from this community needs money, let him not go to a predatory poacher. Let him come to us. Let him take the money from us.